Public service, what is it? Some would define it as an 8 to 5, Monday through Friday job with many holidays each year. Others would say it's a government job for those that couldn't make the cut in the private sector. And yet there are a few that recognize that it is really a public trust responsibility. My view is the latter. When you look at our air and our water resources, massive tracts of public lands, an array of wildlife, I would say it's an awesome trust responsibility.
Joe Carter has spent a lifetime serving his fellow man. It all started back in 1960 when Joe was stationed in Alaska while serving in the Air Force. His early career included duty posts at the Early Warning Station, far out in the snowy Aleutian Islands. He wasn't there long, however, and soon he was promoted to Deputy Director for the Alaskan Command Special Services Recreation and Fishing Facility at Seward, Alaska, a prime getaway for military personnel and their families. Joe rode out the Alaskan earthquake in 1964, then transferred to Carswell Air Force Base in Texas, and worked with the 7th Bomber Wing as a loader, stacking bombs on B-52s headed for North Vietnam.
I'm delighted that I've had the opportunity throughout my entire adult life to be a part of public service. I spent 8 years in the United States Air Force, serving in Texas, California, and Alaska.
All in all, Joe spent 8 years with the Air Force. Since leaving the military, he has been an outspoken advocate for veterans, questioning politicians who see veterans as fiscal liabilities. Following his discharge, Joe returned to Alaska as a private citizen. His career serving the public continued, however, when he was appointed Deputy Director of the Alaska Vocational Training Center for Adults.
I returned to Alaska after leaving the Air Force and spent 8 years with the Department of Education, adult vocational education programs, primarily working with Alaska Natives on employment opportunities and education. I had the opportunity during that 8 years to travel to every Native village in Alaska. That's difficult to achieve even in the private sector.
In his spare time, he created the Junior Chamber of Commerce and served as State Vice President of the Alaska Jaycees. But in 1976, Joe was looking for a drier climate, and he moved to Arizona. Their loss was our gain, and he settled in an area of the state he fondly refers to as the Greater Eastern Arizona Metroplex, otherwise known as the town of Safford. Soon he was working for Graham County as the Employment Training Director. His tenacity and attention to detail were rewarded with additional responsibilities when, in addition to his other duties, he took over the personnel department for the county and spearheaded a complete rewrite of the employee personnel system. By this time, Joe was really hitting his stride. He assumed responsibility for county fair operations as well as para-mutual racing for the County Fair Association when the existing Fair and Racing Association was disbanded. Soon after, he was appointed Chief Executive Officer for Graham County, a position he held for 12 years. As the man responsible for countywide infrastructure development, economic development, and coordinating government and media relations, he served as the lead person in several successful high-profile projects that required both state and congressional cooperation. One of these projects was the planning and construction of the new Graham County General Service Building. Typically, bonds are used to finance such a structure, but under the Carter administration, this 28,000 square foot, $2.9 million facility was completely paid for when the doors were opened. During this time period, he was also the leading advocate in creating the Arizona Small Counties Coalition in 1984, a group made up of 6 Arizona counties with common concerns over legislation affecting their revenues. As a result of his efforts, he received the nickname of Cash Carter, which has stayed with him to this day. In 1992, he was elected to a 6-year term on the Eastern Arizona Community College Board.
And while there were many, many challenges throughout that 20-year period, each of those challenges brought opportunities. You need to seize those opportunities. For that 36 years, I am thankful.
By 1996, Joe had 20 years in with Graham County, 2 decades of service, responsibility, and appearances in more than a few parades. He decided it was time to retire. And for the first time in his life, he failed at something. Sitting around didn't appeal to Joe. Anxious to get back into the game, he hooked up with a good friend and they formed a company called Strategic Issues Management Group. The firm is a public policy company that helps both public and private sector clients in advancing their mission agendas. As a part of the team, Joe served as the lead person in creating the U.S.-Mexico Border Counties Coalition, whose membership includes the U.S. border counties all the way from the Pacific Ocean to the Gulf of Mexico. The coalition made sure Congress and federal agencies know the unique challenges that county governments face along the border. But it wasn't until 1999 that many of us in this room got to know Joe Carter when he was appointed to the Arizona Game and Fish Commission. As a commissioner, he has worked aggressively for legislative approval of the agency's budgets and has smoothed the progress of many congressional bills that benefit wildlife agencies and species. He played an active role in creating the state's Wildlife Grant Program, where money flows from the federal government through the Fish and Wildlife Service to the individual states, allowing proactive wildlife conservation instead of waiting to act until a species is listed as endangered. He has also chaired the Heritage Public Advisory Committee and worked with local governments in decisions impacting the Commission and the Department. As a member of the Commission, and especially as chairman over the past year, Joe has been instrumental in the restructuring of the Mexican Wolf Recovery Program, including facilitating a joint meeting of the Arizona and New Mexico Commissions, the first one since 1952. All in all, Joe Carter has over 40 years of public service under his belt, and we're still counting. He leaves a legacy of cooperation, trust, and accountability. He's a man of his word, and the Arizona Game and Fish Commission, as well as the entire state of Arizona, is fortunate to have a person of his caliber on our side. Joe Carter's life has truly been a life of public service.
To Dwayne and to Steve and all the professionals within the department, I salute you. I salute you for your professionalism and your dedication and commitment to public service and a public trust responsibility. To my fellow commissioners, I thank you for the opportunity to have served with you. Bill Burlett, Tucson, Dennis Manning, Alpine, Joe Milton, Yuma, in addition to his commission responsibilities, would rather be out on the ground working on a water catchment. To Sue Chilton, the rancher. When she came to the commission, she said, "What about the rancher?" Sue, my response is, I've traveled all over the state. I've been on the ground with ranchers. They do make a genuine contribution to wildlife programs. To Mike Golightly of Flagstaff, Mike the hunter, ever in search of that trophy animal. He calls it research. To W. Hayes Gilstrap, the junior lobbyist. Hayes has found a new hidden talent, and that is lobbying for the benefit of wildlife programs and the annual budgets that support it. To each of you, I say thank you for the opportunity to have served with you. And now, tonight is my night to speak, and I have a message, and that message is...